It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire, our mission is to empower, and our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Dr. Darnise Martin. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about how Black women over 40 are reclaiming our time and moving on to the next stage. What's going on, Dr. Martin? How are you? I'm about to say Dr. Darnise. How are you doing?
I'm great, Shay. Dr. Darnise is fine, or Dr. Martin is fine as well. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on today. And I just want to jump into it because you're talking about how Black women over 40 are reclaiming their time. Before we get into moving to the next stage in their life, what's been the struggle? I mean, why have Black women struggled so much with their time? And what does reclaiming your time even mean these days?
Well, Black women, especially over 40, we've been living through really generations of overgiving, of having very high expectations on how we are to show up for everybody. And, I know that there's going to be a lot of Black women who are hearing this and say, yep, I know exactly what you mean, because we are often the backbone of our communities, our households, our churches, the nation. Can I get an amen on that? And we are often expected to to save the world, to save our communities, and that has been just the way, right? And so, even to the extent that Black women have worn that as a badge of honor, being a strong Black woman, and I always say it's a double-edged sword to be thought of as a strong Black woman, because then we're not really considered in our wholeness. We're not considered that we have our own issues. We need our own support. We need our own care. And so I am borrowing the phrase from our good Auntie Maxine Waters, who years ago started saying, "I'm reclaiming my time," when other people were trying to take the microphone from her on the congressional floor. Like literally, Maxine Waters was speaking in her official capacity, and others were trying to cut her off, right? Or to speak over her, to not answer her question. And so she's like, reclaiming my time, which means I will not be set aside. I will not have somebody else take what's mine. It's mine, and I will have my say. And so, what I'm offering, what I'm opening up for Black women is a chance to say, it's my time now, and I am going to focus on what is most important to me: my wellness, my rest, and my own dreams and goals. In a nutshell, Shay.
In a nutshell, no, that's spot on. And before we get into thriving to the next stage of their life, especially women over 40, for those folks that are watching that are in that 40 plus, if you're under 40, congratulations, you can tune in and listen in. But for those that are over 40 and they're wondering, for Dr. Darnise, what does thriving mean? What does that look like? Forget the next stage, but what does thriving look like in today's world?
Thriving actually looks like and feels like rest and ease. Now, I know for a lot of us, we have been raised to reach for, the highest accomplishments, to do all of the things, to reach for the brass ring all of the time, to get the position, to get the status, to get the house, the car, everything, right? And that's what we have been trained to aspire to. But because the strong Black woman now, it runs out, our energy runs out. So what reclaiming our time and thriving means now to Black women is, do I get to have any rest and ease? Do I get to finally pursue those things that mean something to me? Because it's one thing to just be strong because you support other people. But if it's my season, which I'm speaking to Black women over 40 and saying, it is your season to thrive. Well, if it's my season to thrive, then I'm not about striving and, trying to climb somebody's ladder at this point. I want to have my flowers, so to speak. And I'm also young enough and energetic enough and hopefully healthy enough where I can create my next goal, right? Some people want to write a book. Some people want to have their own business. They want to step into entrepreneurship. Some people want to travel. Some people want to take a sabbatical year. I hear that a lot from Black women now in social media. I want my sabbatical year, which means I'm not going to do any work. So that's what we're talking about now, Shay. When we talk about thriving, we've done the climbing, and many of us are still working really hard. But for us to say we want to thrive, it is, but when do I get my rest? Is that taken seriously? Well, and as I always said to my clients, no one is going to give it to you. You have to demand it for yourself and create the space for it yourself. So that's what I invite Black women over 40 to do. Create the space for yourself.
And as you're speaking, there are a number of folks, Dr. Darnise Martin, who haven't had a chance yet to read your bio. They're meeting you for the very first time. They don't know who you are. And they might be sitting back saying, Shay, I like what I'm hearing. She's spot on. But who is this Dr. Darnise Martin? What is her backstory? And what led her to the point, or what was that defining moment that led her to be so passionate about what she's doing today? So if you don't mind, we'll slow down. And for those folks that are listening to the podcast, thanks for downloading. We appreciate it. If you're on our on-demand stations right now, whether it's Roku or Apple TV or wherever you might be tuning in, thank you so much. What's your backstory, Dr. Martin, and what led you to doing what you're doing now?
Wow, Shay. Well, where you want me to start? I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I grew up in the Midwest, like a lot of us. And my career path was rather circuitous. It wasn't a straight line, right? I took some twists and turns. I decided to, when I was a teenager, to major in fashion. And after I was working in fashion, graduated from college and moved to New York, and I was working in fashion, I said, oh, this is not it. This is not it. And so what I did was to start to take a look within, right? And so I've made some big changes in my life. I've become a college professor because I said there's different things I want to do. So I'm giving up this work in fashion, moved from New York back to Ohio, then out to California, and became a college professor in African American religion and history. And so what I could say is my path or my backstory is someone who has been for a while following a path of other people's expectations, and then deciding or feeling within myself that this is not the right deal. This isn't quite right. And I can say, at least I'm happy to come from a family that did not try to clip my wings or tell me that I could not. They didn't necessarily understand all the different changes that I was making in my life, but they said, well, go for it. It's your life. Like, we don't get it. We don't understand, but go ahead, go for it. So it means that I've led a life of moving around quite a bit. As I said, I'm from Cincinnati. I went to Kent State for my degree in fashion. And then I moved to New York. I worked in the fashion industry for probably 4 years or so. And then, I just heard that little small voice that said, this is not right. So I was out of alignment. And I decided to go with that and say, okay, well, what really suits my soul better? And it was my lifelong goal and dream and hobby of studying things like history and religion and philosophy. And I said, well, what do I do with that? Right. And so I just decided to lean into it. So I'm someone who will lean into the vision, and which is also what I want for my clients. And I try to open up that pathway for them to lean into your passion. And, I know a little something about that from my own life experience.
I love it, by the way. And then for those folks that are watching, thanks for being so transparent, by the way. I appreciate that. They're watching, they might be wondering, for me as a Black woman over 40, not me, but this is a rhetorical question, obviously. And they're wondering, if there was 3 things that Dr. Darnise would recommend to someone like myself to really move to the next stage of my life. And there's someone who might be watching who's married. They might be single. They might be someone who's a dualpreneur. Many of our viewers are dualpreneurs, Dr. Darnise. They work a full-time job and they're a full-time entrepreneur, and they're responsible for things at their office, and they might have responsibility as a caregiver. And so my question, with all the pressure and all the things that are going on, if you said, you know what, here are 3 things or 4 things or 5 things you need to be looking at as you move to the next level of your life, what would they be?
Wow, that's a lot, Shay. um, I have to ask people, my clients or prospective clients, I always start with this question: who are you and what do you want next? And people will try to answer that quickly, right? And they'll try to say, well, I'm this or that. And what they start describing is their job title and the roles that they occupy. As you mentioned, lots of roles, lots of responsibilities that we have in our life. But what I'm getting at is challenging them to really think about who they are, not what they do. And so, because of that, I say, okay, that's the first thing. And don't try to rush it. Don't try to fill it up. Be quiet with it for a while. Jot it down, journal about it, because many times we have lost ourselves and we don't actually know who we are. We're just busy. And so that's thing number one. You got to remind yourself of who you really are. And then when you do that, the decisions that you start making are going to become clearer because you'll be able to pick the things, the options in your life according to what matches who you are. And I'm somebody who also I have too many things going on, as Shay Brown certainly knows. And I can get stuck in this mindset of which thing, which thing, which thing. And then I have to remind myself, well, which of the things, which of the opportunities actually aligns most or best with who I say I am and with where I want to go right now. We can't look at the big old picture of life in general, but in the next year, in the next couple of years, where am I headed? And then thirdly, do I spend my time doing that? Am I leaning in or am I filling up my time with other things so that I'm actually not in alignment? So those are the things I would ask somebody to think about. Who are you really? What do you really want? And then how are you making decisions about how you spend your time? Are those things in alignment or are those is that just busy work? Because people will say to me, well, I don't have time. I would love to do this or that. Like you said, they're dualpreneurs, right? I don't have time. Okay, well, with the time you have, what are you doing? And so to change our life, we have to actually change our life first. People think, oh, let me change my life. Well, you got to start doing some different things first, and then you'll see some different things. And that's a hard one. That's a challenge for most of us.
Wow. And indeed it is. And as I'm sitting here listening, it makes me think, wow, Dr. Darnise has it all going on. But we're curious, what do you enjoy most about what you are doing now? I mean, the fire's in your voice. We can hear the passion coming through. Certainly the sincerity is unquestionable. So what do you enjoy most about what you're doing now?
Wow, most. I'm an educator, and I would have to say the thing that I enjoy most is seeing a light bulb moment happen for somebody else. So, whether that is in a college classroom where I see, sometimes at least, the students will get it and they'll have that moment, or they'll come up to me after class and tell me about something, or they'll even email me. I have students who email me long after they've taken my class. So the work that I do now, blackwomenatmidlife.com, is similar because when I'm talking to women over a period of time and I see their growth and their development, their aha moments, that to me is everything. That's kind of what I'm doing. I think it's my vocation in life is to, well, put it to you this way. Oftentimes, if people follow me on Facebook, I will change my profile picture to a lighthouse. And honestly, that's like what I consider to be a spiritual download that I get is time to change your picture to a lighthouse again. Because I really think of myself or my work or my brand or all of that stuff as being a lighthouse so that somebody can see it and just get to the next stage of their life. And it's not that everybody is going to see my particular light. Like everybody is not going to necessarily resonate with my particular style. But for those who do, go that way, right? And so when I can have the opportunity to see someone get it and they start really making changes in their life, they started really making changes that they wanted, right? Not by default. Sometimes change happens in our lives by default, and that's because we didn't make a decision. So whatever happened, happened. But the ones who are saying, this is what I wanted to create, and now I'm creating it, and you helped me because I was too afraid before. I didn't know that I could do it, and you showed me exactly how to do it. Or I know I was in resistance for a long time, and you helped me get over that resistance. So, I think it's just a combination of being an educator and being a coach. And I like to think I help people get their light bulb moment.
Indeed, you do, and it's a great transition, I believe, as you were speaking, to a segment that we have here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show called "Today Is My January 1st." Now, for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you wait for this moment, you get to say those words. Today is my January 1st. And for all the new folks, we welcome you to the Happy Entrepreneur Show family. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the show. It represents a fresh start. It means you get a do-over. It means the past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny the past is, the past no longer equals the future. And so my question for Dr. Darnise Martin on the other side is, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And then number two, what was a moment in your life where there was some setback, there was some challenge, and how did you bounce back from that?
Wow. Well, I hear you say today's my January 1st all the time. And as I said, those different times when I made big changes, those big career changes, those big cross country moves that I've made several times, those are each one January 1st moments, because when you find yourself in a brand new environment, there is a certain amount of recreating that has to happen. And so, I've shared that I moved from Ohio to New York, and then from New York back to Ohio, and then to Northern California, and then to Southern California. And now I am in Savannah, Georgia, and I've been here for just over a year now. And each one of those moves meant a certain starting over. Each one of them had its own promise, and I was excited to make each one of those moves actually. Uh, and so those are almost literally January 1st. It's a start over, um, letting go of some aspects of myself that I thought, oh no, like I said, I was out of alignment when I was working in fashion. There are so many people who would love to have that career, right? In fashion and working for different fashion houses in New York and doing all the things, but it was not for me. And when I found that out, to make the change meant it's a January 1. Okay, well, what are you going to do and how are you going to do it? And can I say, it's not that the whole path was, you know, laid out in front of me in any way. I had to walk it. I had to create it as I went along. I did have a certain vision, but I had to keep walking in order for it to continue manifesting. And then secondly, you asked me about setbacks. And certainly, I mean, life is a mixed bag, right? Life is a mixed bag. And the longer you live, the more I think you come to know it. So, there have been a number of challenges, but one in particular was when my mother passed away when I was a junior in college. And that, of course, restructured my whole life, my whole way of being. It was unexpected. She wasn't somebody who was sick for a long time or anything, and she was barely 40, like barely 40. And so I had to come to a new understanding about who I was, which I could not do. I have to say, like, it was such a challenge. So I was in my early 20s. I don't think that I could get myself back together until I was probably about 29 or 30. I had supportive family and all of that, but it's just such a hard knock and hard, unexpected shifting of everything that, I did finish college because I knew that's what she wanted from me. And she had sacrificed a lot in order to send me to college in the first place. So I absolutely had to go back and finish my junior year and then my senior year. And, ultimately, I think a lot of the things that I do are in remembrance of her, but not necessarily always consciously. Sometimes unconsciously, I think that I'm still following, I don't know, or living into her, into the motivation that she provided for me. And because she was barely 40, um, it's probably why, what part of the reason why I wrote this book, 40 something, is because in that decade is when we can really start to focus on ourselves. And she was like, even at 39, planning what else she was going to do with her career. And here I was going off to college, and so she was having time and space to start thinking about herself. Well, she really didn't have much time after she was starting to make these new decisions. And so for me, then to talk about 40 something is, hey, we don't really have time, or we don't know. And so part of my enthusiasm and I don't know, my mission about women taking the opportunity to reclaim their time and to thrive, I'm sure is motivated by my experience with my mother, seeing what she wanted. She was anticipating that she was going to have time and to do something else. And yet she did not. So, I don't want any woman on my watch to say, well, I didn't because I just didn't know how, or I was scared of it, and so I just kept on in my little life. We don't have to stay in your little life. So I hope that answers it for you, Shay.
No, that's certainly spot on. And talked about your mom, and I'm thinking that one of the questions I like to ask, oftentimes when I have a few minutes, and we do now, is of all the mentors you've had and the countless books that you've read, I can't imagine how many videos you watch these days. I think we've all lost count, by the way. I used to say, I think I've watched 50,000 hours of videos. Now, I don't even know anymore, to be honest with you. It sounds like every time I look at my phone to show me how much time I was on social media, I'm like, ooh, I've been here a long time. So my question to you is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given that you would like to share with us that help benefit us? And for those folks that are watching, I always like to share that you're not asking them to bring the 10 commandments down from the top of the mountain, okay? But speak from her heart and share, this is one of the best pieces of advice that's been given to me, Shay, and I pass it on to the audience, and why.
Wow, it's huge. I guess what it comes down to is focus on yourself, or focus on what you're trying to do, right? And I can think of a spiritual mentor right now who said, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. What are you doing? As a matter of fact, just last night, he was hosting a class that he does online, and his admonition to us in the group was, who is your VP? Because when you are in a moment of leadership, who is the person who is at your side to support you and who is going to continue your legacy in the event you can't? Who is your VP? And so he says, focus on what you're doing, focus on what you're trying to create. And so, and I hear that from somebody else named Shay Brown. Shay Brown has been a mentor of mine for a minute. And he says similar things to me. But as I think, broadly, different mentors that I have, I think essentially y'all are saying the same thing, which is focus. Because as I said, it's a challenge of mine. I have different opportunities pop into my life experience a lot. And for me, I'm like, but what about this? But what about that? But what about this? And what about? And so, no, my best mentors say, no. What is that? What does that have to do with you? Maybe this is it in a nutshell. What do all those things have to do with you? And so it forces me, and I invite other people to think this way too. It forces us to really get focused and get clear, because we don't have clarity. We can't make any conscious choices, not in the direction we want to go, right? And then it'll be kind of haphazard and by default. You have to have clarity. Where am I even going? Otherwise, all the decisions are just kind of all over the place. So I would say that. Also, I'll just throw in, Iyanla Vanzant told me to my face twice, stop playing small. You're bigger than that.
Wow. That's a awesome summary. Stop playing small. You're bigger than what? You're bigger than that. When you're not out saving the world, making a difference for others, helping women move to the next stage of life, 40 plus and above, what do you do for fun these days?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love music. And so I love discovering new music now that I'm in Savannah, Georgia. So I go out and hear live music a lot. I love house music. So for those of you out there who might also love house music, and when I say house, I mean real, soulful, deep house. I'm out dancing. I'm out finding the spots in Savannah for good live music. And this environment here is so beautiful. Really, just walking around these squares, and it's like anytime anybody brings up Savannah, the very first thing people are going to say, "I love that city. It's so beautiful." 100% of the time, when people think of Savannah, Georgia, oh my God, it's so beautiful there. I love it there. And it is. And so I'm still discovering places, other than right now we're having, a tropical storm. But the city in and of itself is very rich. And I'm a historian, so I love the history associated with it. And I'm always discovering new pockets um, along these islands here. It's a whole bunch of islands off the coast of Georgia. So between my love of music and my love for history, I'm out and about, and I love to read. So I'm always reading something. I'm always writing something. So that's just my combination of things. And then you're right about the videos and, falling into, I don't know, various rabbit holes of binging episodes of whatever, um, or, podcasts. You just lose track, as you said. You just lose track. Like, how long have I been on here?
As you're speaking, and we're coming down the home stretch, we got to have you back on the show. Two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is Dr. Darnise and her company looking to work with these days, if any? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that you and I have right now?
Well, I'm looking to work with, as I said, Black women over 40. And so sometimes women who are like 65, they'll say, oh, but I'm 65. So 65 is over 40, right? So it's not just women who are 40 something, it's for women who are over 40. So I'm looking always to work with those women who say, I am tired. I'm tired of doing so much for others and feeling empty inside. Those women who say, I have lost myself along the way. I don't even know what I want anymore, and I need help to get myself back to myself. So, there are, we could talk about people who just complain about it, so to speak, right? They're just sort of venting. It's valid. We all need to vent sometimes. But in terms of the kind of women that I actually work with, I look for those women who are ready to make some changes, because you can't do anything if you're not ready, willing, and able to make changes. So those women who find themselves saying, "Yeah, maybe you're an empty nester." Um, Sometimes it's women who've had a health challenge, and that has really shown them that they need to make some decisions now if they're going to enjoy where they are now. So basically, I help women. I guess we could say exhale and get their groove back. And I am opening my cohort for Black Women at Midlife. So you can find me there, blackwomenatmidlife.com. You can also find me on Facebook, coachingforblackwomen.com. It is a private group that I have on Facebook. So coachingforblackwomen.com or blackwomenatmidlife.com. And there you can watch a little video, and you can get scheduled to talk with me by phone. So if you want to reach out, then blackwomenatmidlife.com is your best bet. And I'm all over social. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google me, I'm everywhere.
I love it. Let me say, first of all, thanks so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We've got to have you back. Keep doing the great work you're doing.
Why, thank you, Shay. It's been wonderful. I'm glad to come on and be a part of what you've been doing for some time now. Glad to be
And
a
you are
part of
one of
it.
the people I've had a chance to meet in person. And so the way you see who she is today is the way she really, really is, ladies and gentlemen. So thanks a lot. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. Without you, well, we don't have a show. So we appreciate every time you show up. Thank you so much. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that you really are a super incredible, amazing individual. You're special. You're a game changer, you're a world changer, and you're making a difference. Yeah, you're going to the next level, but as Dr. Darnise talks about, there's a level beyond that, and I know you're going to reach that as well. And no matter what's going on in your life, I believe today is your January 1st, and because of just that one reason alone, I'm holding the belief that your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. It hasn't changed. The Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. We out of here. Peace. Thanks a lot, Dr. Darnise. Yes.